Welcome back to the Grounded Brand Podcast, episode number 7. How's everybody's week been?
It's been good, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back.
Are you ready for turkey season?
I'm fired up, dude.
Me too. Monday can't get here fast enough. We got 4 days.
That's it.
That's it.
4 long days.
Yeah.
Long days.
I actually thought it was going to open up Saturday for youth. Talking to my brother this morning, he's like, no, it opens up the next weekend.
Glad you didn't make that mistake.
For real, man. The whole time I'm thinking me and Bailey are going Saturday morning. And
I knew about it, and I was just going to let him go.
Just let it go, man.
Well, that makes sense because you've been gone lately. You weren't on the last episode.
Well, Dwayne was here a couple weeks ago.
That's
we
true.
talked about making deposits into our marriage.
That's true.
KB and I took a long weekend, went to Blue Ridge, had a good time.
That's great.
Yeah, and then had to go out of town for work this week and got back Tuesday night, and here I am, man. I'm ready to go.
Here we are.
Did y'all miss me?
All right, let's get into this episode.
I mean, really, I'm surprised you even got the cameras to work without me here.
I'm surprised I got that one camera to work. I feel like it needs your magic touch, how old that thing is.
Well, I mean, it gets the job done.
It sure does. It sure does.
All right. Well, guys, we appreciate, and gals, we appreciate everybody that's tuning in and listening to this or watching this on YouTube. We appreciate your time and hope we can add some value to your life and hopefully make you a better turkey hunter, better person, all in one. Tonight's episode, we've got a guest with us, actually in studio guest, Mr. Taylor Woodward.
Second one.
Welcome, Taylor.
Howdy.
So Taylor's from Huntsville, where we're from, Huntsville, Alabama. He is in marketing full-time as his day job, loves to turkey hunt, loves to deer hunt as well. This is his 4th season to turkey hunt. And so one of the things we wanted to get into tonight is kind of talking about gear and strategy and tactics and things like that from Taylor's perspective. Somebody that's been hunting for 4 years now. And then also me and Brandon will throw in our perspective from, 20 to 25 years, from our side of things. Hopefully teach Colton something, so maybe he'll kill a turkey.
Yep, maybe.
Speaking of that, Colton,
You got some news.
do you want to go ahead and share the update?
Yeah, so I wish this was scripted, and it's not. So, we talk about it almost every episode that I've never killed a turkey before, and I injured my shoulder in October. On the last episode I talked about I was getting an MRI printed, and come to find out I have to have surgery on my shoulder, so I'll be out for anywhere from like a month to 3 months. So there's a possibility, if all goes well, I'll be able to catch like the last few days maybe of turkey season. It's not looking like it, but we're gonna hope for the best. So you guys have a whole nother year of me not killing a turkey. I mean, we couldn't script this any better, really.
No, everybody out there on Team Colton, they're kind of a little disappointed right now.
Yeah,
I'll have to hang on a little while longer.
I'm not gonna lie. In my mind, I had thought about like, what is the episode gonna be after that? After my first kill, my first turkey, and now we get to like build this up even longer. Right. And so I feel like everyone's going to be invited at that point. We're going to have to like have a celebration or something.
Well, what's funny is every person I run across, including my wife, she's like, y'all got to get Colton on this year.
We're just going to have to live stream it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah,
get on
exactly.
YouTube Live or Facebook Live.
So what's funny is like it's not funny, but I've been getting like all my gear. Like I bought some TSS. Like I've been getting all my stuff, getting ready. And now it's just sitting. It's just sitting in a pile. And I'm like, I get to look at it for a whole nother year. And, I think I'm just going to come dressed up one time in like full gear and be like, just so I could feel.
What I see now is Drew and I's got a cameraman.
Yeah,
to go with.
That's what I see too.
So.
Hey, you know what? I'm that anyways, but like now you don't have to worry about holding the camera from the one
I'm not
time.
Feel bad now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still go, Colton.
Yeah.
We'll still go on those planned dates that we talked about.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
I don't know.
That'll be good.
You've been waiting since October. Who's your doctor? I'm going to call him up and see if he's got something towards the end of May.
Dude, so like not to get into the whole story, but like I injured it in October and I'm a type 1 diabetic. So they told me that like it was just inflammation. And so I go to another office in here in town and the doctor takes one look at it. He goes, "What'd they tell you was wrong?" I was like, "Oh, they just told me it was inflammation in my shoulder." And they're like, nah, I'm looking at a tear in your shoulder. And so, I've been going since October. And I told Drew this the other day, and I told Brandon too, but like I kick myself because if I would have gone and scheduled and gotten like a second opinion, I would have been healed and stuff by now.
Right.
But I'm stubborn to a point. So
Yeah,
I
but
was
we
just
wouldn't
like,
have this cool storyline now.
you're right. So, y'all make sure you, as a thank you for the storyline, just share the podcast because y'all will get a whole nother year of just me
That's right.
asking questions.
Absolutely.
So
That's right.
yeah.
So let's get into the episode a little bit and talk some turkey and talk some strategy. Taylor, just give us a little intro on you, where you're from, background on who you are.
Yeah, so I grew up in Gunnersville. Really, you said I was from Huntsville.
Yeah.
So we should clear the air on that. But for me, nobody in my family hunted. I don't, nobody in my family has ever owned a firearm.
Wow.
And I was always like, I've always been like an extreme sports. Like, when I moved, I lived out west in Colorado for a long time, moved back about 7 years ago, been in Huntsville ever since. And I mean, I was like a big time rock climber, mountain biker, snow skier. And like 6-7 years ago when I moved back, if you would have asked me, would you ever go hunting? Like all my brain would think about is just sitting still. And I would have told you no way.
Yeah.
Right. And, so it's been an interesting transition for me. And kind of out of necessity, I've got a back injury, so I just can't do a lot of the extreme stuff I used to be able to do. But so, I mean, I guess really I've been all self-taught. I've had a little mentorship in the last year or two, but mostly I've just utilized the resources we all have online. And when I was younger, I did a lot of backpacking, and I've done a good bit of like expedition stuff. So I had a lot of experience with maps, specifically paper maps. So I've always been able to utilize that tool really well. I've got a lot of history with that stuff. So that's been super big. But, long story short, this is what I do now.
Yeah.
I hunt and I fish. I've got a boat, and I love to bass fish and fly fish too. But, and I was thinking about it earlier because, just thinking about something I might mention, it's funny, like a lot of people always talk about, oh, I'm much more hardcore turkey hunter, much more hardcore deer hunter. Like when I think about it, because I'm a bow hunter. And so in Alabama, we've got basically a 4-month season here. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about it, I'm much more passionate about turkey hunting. Like I get way more fired up about it.
Yeah.
Like because I can get out with my friends, the weather's nicer.
Yeah.
You get to interact with the animals, but you just spend so much more time in deer season.
Right.
It's just funny. Like, I don't know. It's just funny to think about, like which one. It's confusing.
Right.
It's not confusing. I mean, like you just spend so much more time. Sometimes it's like, man,
That's right.
God, I really love turkey hunting more, but it doesn't seem like it sometimes.
Well, I'd love turkey hunting more too if I did what you did during deer season, because you get yourself like 15 feet up in a tree and make it difficult. Brandon and I walk into that blind and we're warm and out of the wind and stuff. And man,
yeah, that's not really hunting.
that's not,
No,
but it's comfortable.
that's it.
Yep.
So Taylor, you talk about mountain biking and rock climbing and all that stuff. So how did you make that transition, and why did you make the transition into hunting, and how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, that was interesting. So I had a couple buddies that I became close with when I moved here, and one was getting really interested in hunting, especially just from like being able to provide meat to his family standpoint, and he's a biologist, so he really loves being outdoors. And then another buddy who grew up in the Midwest hunting, and so they had gone a few times before and had some success down in one of the WMAs not too far here in North Alabama, and they had shot some wild hogs.
Okay.
And so like we turned this into like, it became this elusive deal among all of us, and we'd go on what we call hog schlogs, because we'd go and walk. We'd literally put in 10 to 15 mile days.
Wow.
In Bankhead.
You didn't know at that time you were preparing for turkey hunting, did you?
No, I mean,
Walking
but
on
we
the mountains.
like, so it was kind of an easier transition just because I could no longer ride the bike. My back was just so messed up. So I could go out and walk and hike, for the whole day. So, but then from there, I got a little more into hunting. We started doing that. I actually shot my first deer up at a buddy's farm, just right up the road here in Hazel Green. They took me out, and I shot one. First one was with the rifle, and kind of ever since then, I've had some access to some really small pieces of private that I've utilized, and then a lot of public too. And I've just been, I don't know, I've been on fire for it. For me, it's like about putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right.
And like, the more I do it, the more I get obsessed with it. Yeah.
And I'll attest to that because we've had some conversations where you just get in depth to it, man.
Yeah.
So that's cool. You talk about cutting your teeth on deer hunting. So what actually got you into wanting to go turkey hunting?
Well, when we hit the pandemic, deer season was over and we were on lockdown. And so like a lot of the resources I had been using, like I watch a good bit of stuff on YouTube, kind of halfway for entertainment, halfway for information. And anyway, so all of a sudden it kicked over into turkey hunting. And I was like, well, I know that there's some turkeys on this property.
Right.
And so basically I went over here to Academy and got like the Primos like starter pack of calls. It's got like a cheap box call. It's got a slate call and like maybe 2 diaphragm calls.
Yeah.
And I'd just go out there and like this piece of property that I started on is literally 40 acres square. And it was, back then it was really covered up with turkeys. Like they're all around.
Yeah.
It's not quite that way anymore. But anyway, I was just like looking for something to do. I was working remote and I was like, man, I can just go sit in the woods all day and then like get out for
emails.
Yeah. Basically, or get out for a few hours if I need to. And, workload wasn't quite as bad. So anyway, but I just got fired up calling turkeys, and I didn't have a lot of success in the beginning. It was a lot of, a lot of just trying with a little bit of response.
Yeah.
And really the majority of it was probably what got me really fired up about it was actually the first time that I called some in. I called a group in and I just started, emulating the boss hen. And so she got fired up, brings a whole group in tow.
Yeah.
And like, this was at like probably 1:30 in the afternoon, something. I'd been out there all morning. And I was like, I'm out of here. I've been sitting in the same spot basically.
Oh yeah.
So it had been pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like waiting for them to come. They were on the other side of the property. I should mention, right on like 200-400 yards across the property line. So anyway, like I strike the pot call, the slate one last time, and then she just gets fired up and just comes on a string.
Yeah.
And like I was leaned up against a tree. I had no time to make a setup or anything. I literally got down on my hands and knees behind the tree. And like she brings them all in and like she's just looking at me.
Yeah.
I had no way to make a shot though. I probably could have tried and forced it, but I just figured if I moved, it was going to blow the whole deal. But there's a couple strutters in the back and it was just like, that's what really kind of sealed it for me was 2 strutters in the back. And there was just like this perfect light coming through the canopy and just like, they were probably 50, 55 yards. And like the iridescence in their feathers, even at that far,
range,
man, it was just like unreal.
Yeah.
So that's the story that got me hooked anyway.
I hear you, man. That's awesome. I remember for me, I think I was 10 or 11 or something like that. And, I had my dad to go with. And luckily, I think it was the first hunt I'd ever gone on with him. We called in a bird. I mean, we were running late that morning. We got in there, and he struck it was a Primos box call. It was either Primos or it was an HS strut. I can't remember what it was. But, dude, one hammered at 100 yards, and then he was on us in 10 minutes, and it was over with, and I was hooked after that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the Primo starter kit. I think a lot of people start out with that. And,
it's like $30 and I bought it for like 3 or 4 calls.
I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking because I went to Academy the other day to pick up some birdshot, and like I knew exactly which one you were talking about because they still sell it.
That slate is actually not bad. I mean, it's a plastic bag, but it still sounds pretty good.
So that's what I cut my teeth with was the Primo's Power Crystal is what I used. And I use that call forever. And I talk to Drew about it all the time. I've lost it over the years, and I wish I had it back. But I can't tell you the amount of birds that I've killed with that. And if I still had it, I would still run it because you break it in and it's hard to emulate that.
You're
sound.
confident with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You know how to run it. You know what spots not to use the striker on and what sounds you can get from it. And man, it was deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there's got one, you want to send it to me. hit me up, send me an email. I'll be glad to take it off your hands.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about that because like I went in to get a shirt or something, and man, I just picked up like a Woodhaven mouth call, and I've like when I'm driving in the truck or something, I just practice, and it's like, man, you just pick something up and start it.
Yeah.
Now I'm not gonna lie, I think it sounds like a dead one. My mouth call
Probably does.
It probably does. I kid you not. When you guys pulled up, I almost was gonna ask you, what does this sound like? But I was too embarrassed because I knew it would come on it would end up here, so I didn't.
Well,
But you got to start somewhere. I mean, to your point, like you just got to start somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
You just got to jump in and go. Like me and Brandon, we both had mentors. Taylor, you had YouTube, which is a great resource
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, honestly, because turkey hunting is one of those sports that's, if you don't have a mentor, man, it's hard to get into and be successful, especially early on.
Right.
And you saw some success early on. I don't think you killed a turkey that first year, but that next year you killed one.
Right.
And then the bug, bit even harder into you, and that's when you were really hooked.
Yeah.
So, what would you say for somebody that's kind of new getting into it? Just talking about gear, both for Taylor and for Brandon. What would y'all say? Maybe give me like 2 pieces of equipment or types of gear that's a necessity. Hey, don't go to the woods without this.
one is definitely a shotgun.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I feel like we don't even have to qualify
Really?
that one.
No.
Hey, you know what? I know you're joking, but like
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, man. Like some
Yeah.
people might not know that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
there's
If we're talking about very basics, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the person who's listening to this for the very first time because this is
Yeah.
like our back to basics episode.
that's
Yeah.
right.
You need a shotgun.
I feel like you don't need don't need to qualify that, but I mean, let's just say if you went into the woods with only a shotgun, if you had good woodsmanship and you knew
Yeah.
where turkeys were, you could kill turkeys
Yeah.
without a call.
Absolutely. Just
Oh, yeah.
Scratching or whatever.
Absolutely that, and just knowing the lay of the land. So just having good knowledge,
Right.
base of where you're hunting at, and scouting beforehand is definitely huge.
So a gun and scouting, that's yours too?
No, we said gear. I mean,
Gear, I
scouting
know.
is not
Scouting
gear.
is
Oh,
not
okay.
gear. Yeah,
Okay.
no,
That's
We don't
intuition,
have that
Drew.
sponsorship
no,
yet.
no. I know that not everybody can use a mouth call, and some people can't use a pot call or whatever. But you've got to have some kind of call out there. I feel like just to kind of to lure them in, and that's different for every hunter, whatever that may be. For somebody starting out, for me, and this would work for a kid as well too. But there's an old push box call that works great, man. It gives out good, simple yelps, and you can do some nice purrs and some cuts on it and stuff. And I've actually used it a couple times to kill a bird with. So I think for a beginner, that's probably one of the easiest calls that you can tote in the woods with you to carry. And then obviously, some people like having a good vest. I mean, grounded sail's a great one. Or it could just be a bino harness or something that you can pop a call or two in. So I would say having a decent call that you're comfortable with to carry into the woods with, and then something to tote that in, like a vest or bino harness or something like that, I think is a valuable tool. And yes, Drew, a shotgun. It's nice to have as well.
Taylor,
Mine
weigh in?
would kind of fall in those. I think the one thing to hit on is like you got to have a good seat because you're gonna be sitting on your tail for a while if you're turkey hunting. But so that comes with the vest. But for me, it's probably binos too.
Yeah.
I mean, and realistically, a map. Like
Yeah.
you I don't know. You asked for 2. I'm going over the limit there, but
We'll give you 3.
yeah. All right.
Map is good. Obviously you have those on your cell phone now, so you can
Right.
tote those anywhere with you.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to ask you, like you said you were hardcore into like you were real good with paper maps. So do you still use paper maps or are you still like on Onyx? Or
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
I use a couple different platforms. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think it's good to know how to read a map.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I remember just as a kid, we didn't have Onyx. Dad would always carry on the side of his foiler. He had this like plastic rod can, like a PVC pipe type deal, and a map was rolled up in there, and he'd slide it up in there. And I thought it was cool at the time, which I didn't really have the slightest idea what he was talking about at the time. But he would pull it out and he'd talk about topo lines and he'd talk about ridges and where the creeks and all that stuff were at. So I thought that was pretty cool. And now that you pull it up on Onyx, it's a little bit easier to read and understand. But just having that basic knowledge of how to read a map
Right.
is huge, I feel like. So,
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I really like the binoculars. to me,
Yeah.
I mean, I hunt a lot of wooded areas, but I still utilize, even in the woods, I use my binoculars a ton.
Oh yeah.
How
And,
many times have you seen something out there dark,
yeah.
tree stump, whatever it may be, and
Well, this
Yeah.
time of year, it's every clump of grass in any field I drive by. I'm like, oh, pull over. No, no. It's a clump of grass.
Yeah.
It's lightening up, and then you're like, oh,
But especially when you're out west,
Yeah.
I mean, you can see long distances compared to the southeast.
Right.
You don't want to cut out on a turkey and go a mile and then realize, oh, I just came all this way and it's a hen.
yeah,
So binos are a good one.
they are, man. So, Drew, what do you think is some of the most important things to have with you during the hunt? I know we talked about a few things as far as like gear and stuff, but is there anything else you can think of that you might need that may not necessarily be a call or be a vest or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll say
like
one
there.
thing that I'm a proponent of, and I'll probably catch a little bit of flack about this one, and that's TSS. And I'm not saying that, to promote any one brand of shell, but the way that I look at it is, you're spending all this money on vests and boots and calls and guns and chokes, and then you're putting the time in to go out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, a shell's going to be $10.
Yeah.
Your average turkey hunter kills, less than 2 birds a year. So you're talking an extra $20.
Yeah.
But the advantage that TSS gives you over just a pure lead shell
You're right.
is bar none.
Yeah.
So to me, that's one of those things. It's like, spend a little extra money and go ahead and buy that.
Yeah.
And make sure you've got that.
So-
But you also have to, every state is a little bit different as far as regulations go.
Right.
Because a lot of the TSS that I shoot 9s, or 9.5s.
Yeah.
Some states that's not legal in. So you need to, check your local regs
Yeah.
on that. But if you're asking me for just one thing, hey, that can make you more successful in the woods, I'm going to tell you to go get some TSS.
so not knowing anything. Why are 9s or 9.5s not legal in some states? Is it just because it's like,
Small shot size.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point because, I mean, you're already invested into it. You've already bought your license. You've already bought the gear, whether it be a vest or camo. So you're several $100s into it. And then your shotgunners, I mean, they range anywhere from $400 to, $3,000 if you want to spend that much money on a shotgun.
I got a $200 shotgun.
You got the old pawn shop.
No, just a single shot break action.
I hear you.
There you go.
That's right.
The sight's worth more than the gun.
That's the way it's supposed to be, I think, is from what I hear.
You know what? When we're at conventions and stuff, and like I'm going over the vest with people and talking about like all the things that it holds. You know what the number one thing people always tell me that I never mention ever, but they're like, you know what that'd be perfect for?
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. Every single time, man.
I've not heard that, but I've heard a few big guys say, where can I put my snacks at? So there's plenty of snack places in there for sure.
Well, if you're
Right.
Taylor, it'd be like, where can I put that oatmeal cream pie at?
Oh man.
And I'm glad you brought up TP because that's probably one of the most crucial ones that you can carry in the woods with you.
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
something good to have.
Yeah, you don't want to come out with like, a hood not on your shirt anymore.
That's right.
No.
Yeah. One sock.
Well, or if you're like our buddy Zach from Kingdom Connections when he was on here,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
telling us, he's got a rule where during turkey season he doesn't eat Mexican
No
food.
Mexican.
The night before, yeah.
And so, man, he's probably got some loaded up in
I'm
that
sure.
side pouch.
Absolutely, man. Well, Taylor, we heard Drew's with you being I think that she said this will be your 4th year starting the turkey hunt. What is something that you found over the last couple of years that you like to carry into the woods with you?
Well, the one thing I was going to say is concealment. So like
Yeah.
a good face mask and a good set of gloves.
Yeah.
Which that's pretty basic, but I mean, if you have good concealment and you're utilizing it really, like I guess it was last year, opening day, I called in like 9 hens and they were literally like, they came within arm's length and I just had to close my eyes and they were feeding around me for about 10 minutes. I can't tell you the adrenaline rush.
What'd you close your eyes for?
Dude, because I wanted them just to hang
move
out,
on?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But man, that was pretty insane when you could literally just reach out and touch them. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So one of the things that, I just mentioned it, like my mouth call, it sounds like a dead turkey.
Right.
It's bad. So like what I want to know is, because I was thinking about this driving the other day, is like if I were in the woods right now and I was trying to call a turkey in, like would I get a turkey in even if it's starting to like, I don't know, get a little bit of a smell? Like would I get a turkey in even if it's starting to like, I don't know, get a little bit of a smell? Like would I get a turkey in even if it's starting to like, I don't know, get a little bit of a smell? Like if it sounds somewhat similar, or are they pretty forgiving, or like no, not at all?
I don't know, Colton. I'd have to listen to your call, man.
Man.
Honestly,
Maybe
Why
we'll
don't you go get that
record.
mouth call, bring it up here.
Yeah, maybe we should. No, I'm not
You know,
gonna do
let the
that.
people weigh in on
Yeah.
that.
I'm not gonna do that. It'll be all over Old Gobbler or something by
gonna
the end of the day.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it depends.
Yeah.
Yes and no. They can be forgiving or they cannot be forgiving. It's going to be dictated on how much pressure that turkey's had on them, how long they've been hunted. Is this a Jake that you're yelping to or calling to, or is this a turkey that's been hunted on public land for the last 4 years?
yeah,
But I'll say altogether, I feel like most turkeys are pretty forgiving
yeah,
in the calling. You're going to be more successful based on how you set up and where you set up and knowing the habits of turkeys on that piece of property.
Because I'll tell you one thing, calling for me is super intimidating. Like, especially because like with social media and everything, I mean, people post like videos of other people calling, and I mean, dude, there are some like 12-year-olds who,
yeah.
like, if I heard that, I would think that's a turkey.
Yeah, some of them sound better than turkeys.
Right.
Yeah, some of them, I mean, it's incredible. And so like that's one thing I think for like a new hunter. And Taylor, I'm curious like if you experienced this, but like calling, one, did you start on a mouth call, or like did you have something different?
Well, the slate call for me was like it was easier to pick up and be able to hit sound like turkey.
Okay.
In the beginning. But I mean, I was kind of, I did a lot of practicing in the turkey woods on the diaphragm call too. And it's taken a lot of time to figure out what cuts work for me the best and what stretch and stuff like that, and, so, I mean, the bottom line is it really takes time.
Yeah.
And I'm with Drew. I think it probably depends if you got a gobbler out there, sometimes they just want to die,
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's their day.
You really just got to gauge how they gobble on their own, I feel like. And then, sometimes it doesn't matter what you throw at them. They're going to gobble. I mean, for crying out loud, they gobble at people honking their horn or
Right.
shutting a door on a car,
My terrible owl call,
Yeah.
my hoot.
And not only that, a real live hen sometimes doesn't sound that good either.
No.
Sometimes they don't even sound like a normal hen.
No.
You
Well,
would
my
think they
call
would be
might
something
sound like a car horn.
Yeah, you might.
I'll
be,
show
you might
I'll show you
struggle
guys
then.
after this.
You might be in
but-
trouble, Colton.
Yeah, I'll show
Yeah.
you guys after this.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a good point where a lot of people who may be new to the sport, they may be intimidated to call, to practice, or to even let anybody else hear them call. And I think that goes back to comparison, what they've heard or what they've seen on TV or YouTube or something like that. But I think just the best practice that I can tell you for anybody out there that's just starting is just find what you're comfortable with and just keep doing that until you feel confident to carry it out into the woods. And then also record yourself, man. I think there's a lot of people that probably don't do that. If you'll just go back and, whether it be with a mouth call, slate call, box call, whatever it is, just go back and record yourself doing a couple cadences or a couple notes and just see how it sounds to you. And then just work off of that and try to adjust from there. So,
Yeah, and be sure when you're recording, you step away from the recorder or the phone, whatever you're recording it on. Step 20, 30, 40 yards away.
right.
That way, you're going to get a lot more realistic sound
Yeah.
out of it and
Absolutely.
understand
Here's
what turkeys are hearing.
Yeah.
Here's the kicker, though: is it always sounds great in the truck, and then you get out in a real life scenario, and I'm just gonna trip all over my tongue.
That's just like you sound better singing in the shower than you do anywhere.
right.
Amen,
That's
man.
right.
That's like so like, not to get on this tangent, but like I watch some people online, man, and they can just throw a mouth call in and then it's like bang, instant. I feel like I have to almost warm up to like get there. And that's where, for me, like not having any experience, I'm trying to figure out like, well, do I warm up in the truck on the way there? And then, hope I got it the
Absolutely.
rest of the day.
Absolutely.
Well,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
you ought to. For me, this year's been a little bit different, but typically in the past, about February is when I start putting my mouth calls in and start practicing them in the truck on the way to work.
I thought
What-
you were hardcore. Come on, February.
No, man. Yeah, February. February. But,
You don't do it all year round.
Yeah, man. But yeah, I start practicing usually about February. I didn't start this year until about 2 days ago. But you talk about warming up. For me, man, sometimes it just, even throughout the day, I start out cold. And sometimes it just takes time as you're going throughout the day to feel confident in what you're doing. And man, not only that, sometimes I feel like some other people may think this as well too, but sometimes, man, I forget what cadence I even need to be yelping in. You know, I forget like just standard stuff, and then being able to hear a hen out in the woods, which most of the time you'll hear a hen in the woods almost on every hunt, just about. And to me, when I start hearing that, it's when I start to kind of mimic what she's doing, getting the same cadence as she is. Like Taylor did earlier, he got that hen fired up and brought her over there. So just being in the woods listening, and that usually gets me fired up and gets my rhythm and routine and the pitch, I feel like, sounding a little bit better as well too. So
Let's talk about some different scenarios that people will face in the woods. We'll start with the first one. First thing in the morning, you know, somebody that's new to hunting, they go out, they find a turkey gobbling in a tree. And what are they going to do?
So if this question is geared towards me, what I'm going to do is for one, I'm not going to make a sound to that bird. I'm just going to sit there and let them gobble on their own. And while
You're not calling to him?
No, I'm not calling to him at all. And what I'm going to do is hopefully he's gobbling still on the limb and it's still pretty dark out. And so what I'm going to try to do my best is get as close as I possibly can without spooking that bird off the limb. And once I'm set up on a tree, hopefully I can get within, I don't know, his bubble. You know, that's going to be anywhere from 80 to 50 yards if I can get that close, depending on what the light situation is. And I'm just going to let him wake up, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to see what's around because I want to know if he's got hens with him. You know, I want to know what his mood is for the morning. If he's fired up, man, you know, the last thing I want to do is just start making a lot of noise and racket to where he's going to stay up on that limb for too long. And then he's going to be up there searching for me, which is going to be harder for me to make any kind of moves if I need to, you know. But, you know, I'm going to start doing some light tree calling, you know, some light yelps or something like that, tree yelps, just to...
Why are you doing that?
Why am I doing that? Just because I want to know that I'm there.
Okay.
And especially I may get on that a little bit earlier if I know he's got other hens with him. And I may try to get a little bit more aggressive than what the hens are doing that may be around him, just to kind of pique his interest a little bit more. But that's going to be what I'm going to do anyways.
Taylor, what you doing?
If I'm going in cold, first thing I'm probably going to do is look at the map and kind of figure out, is there, you know, any terrain features that might dictate the way he's going to move, you know, or is he on a green field, whatever. You know, is he on the edge of a green field? He's just going to fly right down and hang out right there.
Right. Because you don't want to put like a creek or a fence or, you know, a draw or something between, you know, you and that turkey. So that's kind of what he's talking about by looking at the map. He's going to make sure there's no big obstacles or features, terrain features that he's going to set up between, you know, he wants to look at that and make sure, hey, when this turkey pitches down, he's got a clear, easy path to come up here to me.
Yeah. And I mean, let's get real. He probably ain't gonna follow my plan, but
They never do, man.
No. But I mean, that's why it's fun, right?
That's right.
So I'm gonna do the same as Brandon, where I'm gonna try and get in as close as possible. And I think, you know, for me, it's taken a little bit, you know, a couple years, but the last couple years I've really tried to focus in on just trying to read the turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's something obviously I don't have a lot of experience with. You know, so it just comes with time, but in making lots of mistakes.
That's right. That's tough. That's one of the hardest things to do is read a turkey.
Right.
You talked about the terrain and finding the creek and all that stuff. That is a great point. Drew and I ran across a bird last year where I hunt at, and we got that bird pegged where he was at. We got there to where he was at. It was a little bit too late in the morning. When I say late in the morning, I mean it was starting to lighten up a little bit. And I felt like we got as close as we could, which was probably, I don't know, 120 yards from him, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was camped up on the other side of the creek, and he was probably, I don't know, maybe 20 yards off the creek on the other side from where we were at. And that joker was fired up. I mean, I just knew that he was going to pitch across the creek and come over to where we were at. It didn't happen that way. He got down and he hung up on the creek. And for whatever reason, birds are funny, man. You know, in nature, the hens are supposed to go to the gobbler. And I guess that morning he just decided he didn't want to cross that creek. And when I say a creek, I mean it's probably not 20 yards wide at best.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's all it took for him to get hung up. And I'm sure he had hens over there, and he had a daily routine that he liked to stick with as well, too. And that's probably something we didn't consider. because I'm pretty sure that he went on up there and got on a strut zone probably right after that.
Yeah, he did.
So definitely knowing the terrain definitely helps out significantly. So,
and I'll say this: there's no obsoletes when it comes to turkey hunting. So Brandon's sitting here saying, he's gonna yelp to him on the limb a little bit. I know other guys. I'm usually more aggressive when the turkey's on the limb, especially when there's other hens there.
Yeah.
I want, personally, my kind of thought process going into it is I'm going to try to get the turkey fired up.
Yeah.
I want to get him excited about the hen that I am. I'm going to do an early fly down. I want him thinking that I'm the first hen on the ground, and he's so fired up, he's going to go ahead and pitch and come down to it.
Right.
know. And but then I've got another buddy, probably the turkeyest killingest fool I've ever known in my life. He will not yelp to a turkey in the tree.
Yeah.
It does not matter whether it has hens with it or not hens with him.
Yeah.
He is not going to yelp to that turkey in a tree.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say this. We talk about these tips and these tactics that we've tried and that have worked for us and not worked for us. You have to get out there and try it for yourself and become confident with it yourself.
And no one way is going to work every time.
Exactly.
So you're going to have to get out there and judge the bird, judge the scenario, gauge if he's hot, if he's not, what birds he's got around him, because every situation is going to be a little bit different. So whatever works in that moment may not work tomorrow in the next bird. So
Yep.
Yeah.
But you were asking what is his thought process by not yelping to that turkey.
Right.
He wants to let that turkey get on the ground, figure out kind of what which direction that turkey's going, then get in front of him and approach him with that.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
So that's kind of his thought process with it.
That's interesting. I guess like I wouldn't have thought, from an outsider perspective, we talk about like getting comfortable with what you want to do and stuff. It's cool to see that like everyone's got their own different thing. Like there's obviously not a playbook to it.
Right.
And what I do, Taylor's not going to do, or Drew's not going to do. It's nice to know because, like, especially as someone, I talk about with like the mouth calls being intimidating to like call and stuff. Like maybe I'm just not meant for a mouth call, or it's something that it's going to take a lot longer, but I'm good with a pot call. So I think it's good to know that there's so many different perspectives. But man, sometimes people can be headstrong on their perspective. I know that much.
Amen to that.
They can be. And we were just to go back on every bird is different. I'm glad that every bird's different.
Yeah.
That makes it a challenge. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes us keep going out there, because if every bird worked the same way, you called to them on a tree, they flew down and they walked right to you and you killed them. What would be the fun in that? I don't know. I'm just glad that every bird is a little bit different.
That's right.
Now, I'm not going to lie, when they've been whooping you all season, you would like for one to just come on in on a rope every once in a while.
Right.
Amen.
And I am thankful for those birds too, but I'm thankful for the ones that whoop me as well. So.
That's right. All right, so I got another scenario. It's 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the late morning, early afternoon hours of the day, and you've hunted all morning. You've hunted hard. You've covered a lot of ground. Haven't really heard many turkeys. Turkeys, gobbled on the limb, flew down, shut up. Haven't been able to find anything. What's your play?
Yeah, so if I'm on, let's just say I'm hunting public, and for whatever reason I'm on a spot that I haven't scouted before, my A, B, and C plans for the morning all got 3 trucks on them, so I'm going somewhere else.
Good. Hey, pause. Good for you when there's already a truck on them for going somewhere else and having that respect. Good job on that.
Oh man. So I'm probably gonna first thing is I'm probably gonna burn some boot leather looking for like fresh sign. I'm look for fresh scratching. If it's on a property that I've been on, for sure I'm going to probably go somewhere that I know turkeys like to hang out. And then so setting up, calling, putting some time in on that, being, if they're not talking, there's like, you usually know if they're there or not. They might not be talking, but birds come in silent quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's not the story we always want to tell. You want
Right.
you always want to tell a story about he's coming in and you can feel it thumping in your chest. But I don't know. I still actually enjoy that a good bit. And then the other thing is having some patience at that time, like lunch, whatever, getting like usually
Time to break out the Little Debbie's.
I was about to say the oatmeal cream pies,
gonna
man.
say-
Here they come, baby.
Usually that gobbler's, the hens have broke off from the gobbler
Yeah.
at that point. So
And usually by the time you get that second bite in, he's staring dead at you. Son, don't come inside.
I get those XL cream pies too. So
Yeah,
they take a minute.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I guess for me, Drew, what I'm going to do if it's 11, 12 o'clock, I guess if I know the area well and I know how the birds have responded in the past, I'm probably going to go to that area and set up. And, if I've hunted it a couple weeks and I've run up on the same bird a couple times, more than likely, depending on what time of the season is, he's probably got a strut zone he's gonna hit at some point.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance I'm probably gonna go to that known strut zone, and I'm gonna set up. And more than likely, I'm not gonna call. I'm just gonna sit there and wait till I hear him coming through the woods, and then maybe make a small, some kind of call or something just to get his attention. But that's probably what I'm gonna do. And then if it's hot outside, which it gets hot here later in the season, I'm probably going to find somewhere cool. That may be a creek bottom somewhere. That may be some kind of cedar thicket or something like that, possibly where it's going to provide some shade. I'm probably going to try to hit up one of those as well too. But if I know the area well, if I know where a bird typically likes to hang or go to a strut zone to call in a hen in the midday, that's probably where I'm going to head to first for sure.
What about you, Drew?
Yeah, you kind of got two options. You either start covering ground like you were talking about, and you try to find a hot turkey, which can be hard to do, especially let's say you're hunting private, you don't have much ground, you can't you don't want to be tromping around all over it,
Right.
possibly bumping turkeys because they're silent. So that but if you're on a big piece of public, you can start covering ground, to try to find a hot turkey. The flip side of it is kind of what y'all were talking about, finding a spot that turkeys have been in, they've spent a lot of time in, and I'm gonna go and sit down and call, just blind call in those areas, and I'm gonna just cluck and purr and scratch the leaves.
Yep.
I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna yelp a little bit, but I'm not doing a bunch of excited cuts and excited yelping and things like that. You might get an excited note in there every now and then because as a flock of turkeys is feeding, and one of them might get close to the other, and they're going to throw out an excited cut or even a yelp, but you're not going to sit there and do that over and over and over. No. Most of the time, those turkeys are going to be just softly purring, softly clucking,
Right.
Things that you and I really can't even hear unless we're 20 yards from these birds,
Yeah.
Right.
But they can hear it a long ways away. So that's probably what I'm going to do. I'll probably go try to, find a place that I have some history with, that I know where birds historically like to just hang out and spend time and just sit there and do a little blind calling and try to be patient. Like you said, it's not necessarily the most fun type of hunt, but sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, they can be. It can be a little more rewarding sometimes too, depending on how you see it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just not that story that you're going to tell. But
No.
I mean, I think that you can, like, if you can get those silent gobblers.
Yeah.
Like, and the hard part is, sitting still to where you can get them in. If you don't think anything's out there.
Yeah.
Man, me
Well,
sitting still.
A story that I had a couple of years ago. I was hunting this place up in Tennessee, and I got whooped that morning. There was a strutter probably in this field 100 yards away, and I sat there and watched him, and he was with some hens. They weren't responding to any calls I had, and why would he? He had everything he wanted right there with him. But then he finally broke, and he was coming to me. He was probably 60 or 70 yards at this point, and this joker just took off running straight to me. And I'm like, this dude's about to die. I don't know why he's running, but I look up behind him, and he's got a pile of jakes that's starting to chase him. Well, about the time he got in shotgun range, these deer came up out of nowhere and spooked him, and he turned and went the other way. And so I'm feeling pretty defeated, and at this point, it's probably like 10 o'clock, right? So this was the second or third time I'd hunted this farm, and earlier in the year, I'd seen this other bird. He was getting on this strut zone, and I'm like, I was going to leave this bird alone this year. I was just going to let him do his thing. I'd seen him. He was there the year before as well too, and I just kind of let him be. He was on a part of the property I didn't really hunt that much, and just kind of wanted to leave him to, reproduce and stuff. But I was so heated and fed up that day. I'm like, I'm walking back to the truck, and I got to cross this path where I'm at, and I'm like, you know what? I think it's time for this bird to die today. And so I just get there. I sit up against a tree, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure at some point he's going to come out, And what's crazy is this hen actually came out of the woods first, and she started just like feeding along this fence. And I just started playing with her, man. And she started cutting. I mean, she was getting pretty aggressive, cutting me off and all that stuff. And this dude, he hammers. I mean, it's like you can tell he's king of the hill, right? And he just hammers, and it's like, okay, there he is. And sure enough, he popped up about the same place I thought he would, just for the simple fact that I've been seeing him for a long period of time for previous hunts about that same time. And dude, it was just awesome. But that was one of the scenarios that I talked about, just going to a known strutting zone, knowing where they're going to be at, and being able to call them in. So that's good.
Yeah. So I guess final scenario for me that I'm real curious about is like, let's say you're walking and let's say you're on public land or something like that, and you don't know where they are. You're looking, and you just run up on a flock of them, and I mean they kind of scurry off.
You shoot them before they run off.
Got it. No. Okay. No, but like they scurry off or whatever. What are your chances at that point of like recalling them in?
Well, I think most people would believe that you wouldn't have a shot to call them back in. I think that's where the mindset of most new beginner hunters would think.
Yeah.
But I think you'd be surprised, man. Depending on how bad they get spooked, more than likely, if you let them cool down, you don't do any calling to them, and you go get set up, and they don't obviously see you or anything like that. Or maybe they do see you and you bust the flock up that way. But I think if you're just patient and get set up in there and just let them do their own thing, you're going to start hearing some calling on their own to get that group back together, especially early season. So I don't think it's that big of a deal breaker. Matter of fact, I've busted up several flocks before and have been able to call them back in and been able to harvest a bird of it. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think it really just depends on the situation and the time of year that it is as well too.
And the property too. Like,
Yeah.
but I've had the same scenario, and I ended up killing the gobbler back where I busted him up. But my thought process is I'm going to swing way out wide and try and get out to where I think they might be going. Like they had an area where they had basically a roost site, and I mean they were just hanging right in there, digging in the leaf litter, but I knew and I blew them out from there, and I knew that there was a bench up a couple 100 feet up in elevation higher, and there was had been a bunch of sign up there. So my move was like to bust way out up there and go and try and cover some ground, see if they'd gone that way. I mean, they didn't that time, but ended up just coming back down and called them back into where they had already been. That's where they're comfortable. That's why they're roosting there.
Yeah, and I think every property is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Drew and I talked about a story that Drew and I got on last year, and I think it was that same hunt later that afternoon. We were actually about to call it a day, and we were walking back to the truck, and it's just this creek bottom, and there's mountains on both sides of the creek bottom, and we're walking, and Drew just happens to spot this long beard with a hen that's, I don't know, probably 60 or 70 yards away, maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we didn't get seen, but
we were walking down the middle of a road.
Yeah, gravel road at that. I mean, not trying to be sneaky or anything.
Right.
And Drew's like, hold up, there's a bird. So what we ended up doing is we were able to move off into the woods when I guess their heads were down feeding or something, but we were able to sneak up in there. But while we were sitting there waiting on them, man, we had an ATV and we had a truck go by. And the crazy thing was they were right on the road. There was no doubt that they could see the truck and ATV go by.
For context, this is a private road, just so everybody knows. We're not sitting on the side of the county road.
This is a private road going into a hunting club that we hunt. And anyways, we were set up on the side, and when that ATV came by, it was either the truck or the ATV first came by, and it kind of spooked them off a little bit. And then, I don't know, they came back, and then the truck or the ATV went by the next time, and I think it was ATV went by the last time, and it really spooked them. And at that point, Drew and I was like, well, it's over with. Because, I mean, they went back the opposite way from where we were. But, man, it was funny because Drew and I just looked at each other and we're like, well, there goes our hunt. It's time to go home. Well, it wasn't 2 or 3 minutes after that, man. The hen and the gobbler came right back, crossed the road onto the side that we were at. Could have shot the hen if the gobbler was in the same area where the hen was. We could have shot him, but he just went out of range. And looking back, we probably should have pulled the trigger on him. But anyways, you were talking about it being scared or whatnot. I think it really depends on the property, how comfortable the birds are with the people that are using that property as well too. So every situation is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is, if you're just getting into this, or even if you've been doing it for, a year or two, the best way to learn how these birds react is just getting out there and doing it.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for that kind of experience. Just get out there, do the best that you feel like you can do, try to make the best decision, and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
One thing that I feel like is very important that a lot of people don't talk about is not spooking turkeys.
Yeah.
Especially on public, just for the simple fact of when they get spooked, they shut up.
Yeah.
When they shut up, they're hard to kill.
Yeah, they are.
And it's not fun at that point. You want to kill that turkey gobbling and drumming
Yeah.
and spitting and, coming right to you.
Right.
So especially if you're hunting public, err on the side of caution. Don't be trying to just run up in there as fast as you can, to get straight to that turkey. You don't want to be spooking them. You're going to make it a lot harder on yourself.
Yeah. And with it being early season, a lot of people are out scouting right now as well too.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody has a mouth call. Why not? I mean, especially somebody that's new, I'm sure you want to get out there and use it and practice using it. But before the season starts, I would not recommend going out there and using that call, to be honest with you. The last thing you want to do is just train a turkey's ear and get them used to a call that you may have a chance to use the first week or the first couple of weeks of the season, where they're going to be really acceptable to come to that call more so than they would maybe later in the year. I don't know.
Or call them in and spook them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, in WMAs in Alabama,
Yeah.
it's actually illegal.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would just definitely hold off, and if you're out there pre-scouting, then I would definitely just let the birds do their thing on their own without enticing them. So
That's good to know. Yeah. All right. Well, this was episode 7,
yeah,
right? Man, I forgot for a second. That's bad of me because I gave Drew a hard time last
yeah, you
week.
did.
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on and being in person episode 7 guest, second person in the studio.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here, boys.
We should have got the sign lit up before you. We didn't put on our best show.
No.
I wasn't going to say anything.
We tried fixing it. We really did.
Yeah.
But anyways, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here.
We appreciate you, and we honor you for coming on. And for everyone listening, thank you guys so much for listening. This is just something that we do to try to add value to your life. Make sure that you guys are getting the resources that you need, especially if you're a new hunter now. Making sure that we're putting out content that you guys can use every day during the season. So thank you guys for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, we do have an audio version in case you're on the road. And if you're on the audio version, we have a YouTube version as well where you can see us in video and stuff like that. We talked about the different gear, face mask, gloves, vests. We sell those.
Shotguns?
Well,
we don't sell
We don't sell
shotguns.
shotguns. We don't sell shotguns. But,
I'm a gun collector, not a gun broker.
But y'all head to groundedbrand.com where you can get, a vest. We talked about it last episode. We usually ship within 24 hours. So y'all be sure to order. The season's kicking off. Essentially, when you listen to this, the season's kicking off in Alabama.
It'll be opening day.
Yeah, it'll be opening day.
For part of the state.
Yeah, and so y'all get your stuff ordered if you need anything last minute. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.